What does the word interact mean? Dana? Yes, it is A. They act together. Good job. Then we have synonyms or antonyms. Courtesy, disrespect, those are what? Antonyms, they are opposites. Mournful and blissful, those are? Those are antonyms. Mournful means you're sad. Blissful means you're happy. Stagger, steady. What are those? Antonyms. Consent, deny. Those are antonyms. Scald, blister. Those are synonyms. Those are both like verbs. Good job. Sorry, close it out and try it again. And then we have shades of meaning. So you've got to pick the best word that would describe each of these scenarios. Okay? So the first one is Zeta studied all week for her test and had taken good notes. She knew she would do well. What is the best word for here? Dana?
Confident.
Confident. Good job. Jamie made sure everyone knew that he was the reason the team had won the game. What word goes best here?
Helpful.
Kerrigan. Arrogant. Arrogant. I like some people like that. Do you?
Because if I try to pronounce it, I know it's good.
And the last one, even though the test would be hard, Tony tried not to worry about the test too much. He would just do his best. Elizabeth. Positive. All right, any questions about your morning work today? Now wear this as a reminder today so that you can read it. And
Be a nice woman.
Alright, so what I need for you to do is put your iPads and apples up.
Are you going to read the piece of always?
And I want friends, listen. Put your specials down. Put your masks up. If you would like to put your down on my hand. But you've got to spread out. I should not see your iPad up. I should not see a book. Your desk should be down. Your mic should be on. If you are staying at your seat, I would like for you to maybe move your chairs a little closer, and y'all can sit in front of the board. We're just gonna kind of circle around and have a quick little morning meeting here before we get going.
Is this part of you school?
Yes.
It's like a family meeting. Riggs, there's room for you. Come on up. It's right there by Gage. Alright, so very quickly, because I don't want us to stay up here very long. We're not worried about what Andy's doing because Andy's not the one leading the meeting. So here's the thing that I want to chat with you guys about. Believe it or not, our time together is coming to an end very fast. We have, are you ready for this number?
No.
You can't cry. This is not a cry time. You're told you can cry in the year, but you can't cry right now. This is, or like from counting today, you have 28 school days until 5th grade graduation.
Wait, really?
I thought that picture was
28 school days. Also,
Full
yes, the half days happen after graduation.
Oh.
and let me explain why. It is not because I don't think that you're ready, because as I look around this room, every single one of you are ready to rock it out on this test. The reason I'm not very happy is that if we didn't have to stop and do testing, I would have 15 more days that we could keep rolling with things. But instead, I have to stop and I have to do testing for 3 days. 2 days of ELA and 1 day of math. And I'm not real happy about that. But you know what? This is what we're gonna do. All those people that make the decisions about the fact that we have to test, guess what they're not doing right now? Testing. Sitting in school. They're not students. They're not teachers. They're not the ones taking the test. Right? So you know what we're gonna do? You guys are going to show out. You're gonna show them, you know what? It doesn't matter. We are still ready for this. You are gonna drop the mic on them. Because you guys are gonna show out. And I know, listen, the other thing I don't like about testing is I know that for some of you, it very much stresses you out. Now let's keep it real. There are those of you in this room that you're not gonna give 100% no matter what, because you haven't all year. I'm not wrong. But there are some of you, when it comes time for testing, that gives you a lot of anxiety and stress because you want to do well. We're not going to be that way this year. Because let me tell you something. You guys, every person, everybody look at me. Look at my eyes. Andy, I'm trusting you looking at me. I want you to know that every one of you, Raya, you're not looking at me. Nevaeh, every one of you is ready to rock out this test. 100%, I'm confident that you are ready to rock it out. But here's the thing, 13 days. We have still got so much that I want to do with you in the next 13 days before you take this test. So I'm going to be honest, all the little side conversations, all the interruptions, all the time that I have to waste asking you to stop talking and get on task, it has to stop. I need you in this room, 100% effort, every single day of the next 13 days. And I'm counting today as one of those days. I gotta have it, okay? And you know what? I'm just gonna be really honest. For those of you who aren't willing to do that, you're gonna have consequences because you're not going to keep the other people who have given me 100% and more from doing their best and getting the most out of the next 13 days. So we have a lot to do. Now I want the next 28 days to be fun. And we're still learning. We're still rolling. We still got things to do. But I want us to enjoy our time. 28 days. And then y'all are like officially those stories. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. So I want us to enjoy it. We're going to work hard. We're going to learn a lot. But I want us to have fun too. And me having to constantly stop and constantly address interruptions and constantly fuss, that's not fun for anybody. So, I want us to have this little pep talk this morning. So I want you to know that I'm here, ready to roll, ready to push you hard, ready to make sure everybody feels great 13 days from now when we get ready to take this test. And I'm asking you to give me that same commitment and effort. Got it? Okay, I got time for like quick questions. Are you in trouble? Why or why? Did you listen to anything I said? This is not a getting in trouble conversation. Yes, Alexa. It's just like end of year testing to show what you learned this year.
They don't do that back then. It's just a small test.
It's long. Did you do end of year testing in California? You remember third grade? Yeah, it's like that. Yes, Dennis, very quickly.
How many questions are there gonna be?
Maybe I have no earthly idea. I actually may know the answer to that later this week. I've got some training I have to do, but right now I don't talking about
I
some
know what it
testing things.
TDA.
But it's okay, it's fun. So, going back to your seats. But leave your mask on and your dish will stand for the lesson. Okay, so guys, we are not wasting our time. I need you moving quickly. I need your mouths to be closed. And we have got to roll. So, I'm really excited. I like this lesson a lot. Today, we are going to be talking about thinking metaphorically. What is a metaphor? Can someone please tell me what a metaphor is? Dennis.
It's just like a simile without using like or as.
So what's a simile? What's a simile do?
It's an exaggeration using like
Not an exaggeration.
That's hyperbole.
That's hyperbole. Yeah, help him out, Elizabeth. A simile is comparing something using like or as. A metaphor does the same thing. It's comparing something, but it does not use like or as. Okay? So I might say, your smile is
as big as a rainbow.
like a diamond. Or I might say, your smile is a diamond. That's the difference between a simile and a metaphor.
I like that.
We're going to be thinking metaphorically today as we talk about our books, our fantasy books that we've been reading. And we're going to be using the phrase, here be dragons. This is a fun lesson.
I already finished covering my what is that?
Okay, we'll talk. So I want you to look at this map. I know you guys love maps.
I love maps.
I love it when we pull the maps down and we talk about maps because you guys are so into a map. Well, this is a special map. It is called the Carta Marina. And it is a map that was drawn way back like 1500, like Viking times. So it was a time in our history where people were exploring. People were discovering what else was out in the world. And so you would have sailors who would go exploring and finding new lands and finding new resources. And this map was drawn, and I want you to look at some of the pictures on the map. There's dragons there. Now let me ask you a question.
Lion.
Do you think there were literally dragons in the waters
Dragon. Yes.
that they encountered
What about
on their
the
voyages?
You never know.
I mean,
No, there were not literally fire-breathing dragons that they were going to come across on their voyage. However, the people who drew the maps, the sailors and the voyagers, would draw the map and they would put these dragons here because that was a sign. This is a tricky spot, or there might be trouble here, or watch out, be careful when you get here, or you might want to go another direction. And it could have been something as like a place where there was rough waters or rocky, like rocks that they would have to deal with. Lots of things could have been the reason why they would add those dragons there. But it didn't mean, oh, watch out, there's a dragon going to fly out of the water and burn your boat to a crisp.
Wait, what about the eel?
What it meant is, here be dragons.
Right.
Here's trouble. These areas could cause you problems. It was a metaphor.
But it's meant to be.
It was a metaphor, okay? It wasn't meant to be taken literally. It was just a symbol. It was a symbol that they might encounter trouble here. And so what I want to teach you today is that in your fantasy stories, your characters are going to face different kinds of dragons. They might be literal dragons, like in the Paperback Princess. Or they might be symbolic dragons. It might be a metaphor that's symbolizing some of the conflicts and some of the problems that your character's facing. So our I can statement today, I want you to repeat this after me. I can.
I can.
Look for conflicts.
Look for conflict.
As I read.
As I read.
And consider whether.
And consider whether.
The conflicts.
The conflict.
Are becoming themes.
Are becoming themes.
In my book.
In my book.
That was pretty sad. beginning of the book, Elizabeth faces like a literal real-life dragon, right? She's living the dream as a princess, engaged to be married to a prince. And then all of a sudden, here comes the dragon, burns everything up, including her clothes, kills Prince Ronald, and runs away.
Oh man.
Elizabeth has to face a literal dragon in this story, correct?
Yes.
And she does it amazingly well. She goes on her quest. She finds the dragon. She tricks him, wears him out, and rescues Prince Ronald. But let me ask you a question. Are there any metaphorical dragons? Things that symbolize a dragon that Elizabeth also faces?
Ronald. By the kingdom there should be dragons.
What? What other problems? Remember, the dragon is a symbol for a problem. Nevaeh, you with me? What other problems does Elizabeth face, Kerrigan?
Maybe she says Ronald.
Prince Ronald is kind of a dragon, right? She saves him, and then what does he say?
You do not look up a princess.
You don't look like a princess. You look kind of ugly. You look terrible. Go clean yourself up and come back, right? So Elizabeth faces another problem. Is Ronald literally a dragon?
No.
No, he is not literally a dragon. But is he a problem?
Yes.
He is kind of a jerk, right? So Elizabeth faces this problem of now having to deal with Ronald. After she's faced the dragon and kind of defeated the dragon, now she has to deal with Ronald. And so you can see that in this book, Elizabeth does face several problems, one of them being a dragon, but then the other dragons that she faces have more to do with problems with Ronald, okay? So that's something to keep in mind as you read. Let's think about Harvey in The Thief of Always. Think about some of the dragons that Harvey faces. What are some of his problems that he has encountered? Don't say anything yet. Just think. What are some of the issues? What are some of the problems that Harvey is facing? What are Wendell's dragons? I want you to think about that for just a minute. And it may be helpful. Remember last week when we were organizing the problems that Harvey had faced, and we were trying to keep track of the problems that multiplied, and we did the timeline? It may be helpful to think about this in terms of that timeline. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to turn and talk. And I want you to discuss what are some of Harvey's dragons, what are some of Wendell's dragons, or maybe even some of the other characters. You can turn and talk.
The holiday house?
Karna?
Okay, sure. I think, like when he went like to his house, they were like trying to find out about the haunted, the holiday house. The haunted holiday house. What do you think, Brett?
I think,
What do you think? Remember? Yeah. The last thing we saw about, you just saw Ricky.
Wendell, whatever his name is, he was getting attacked.
Like, yeah, like an illusion or something. Yeah, he was like, oh my god, this is great, this is paradise. Yeah. at the foot of the bus. Yeah. But Harvey's like, no, no. You have the biggest tree trial we're gonna get. Yeah, like something like that. Red, stop playing with your fidget cube. Stop playing with your fidget cube. That's you really don't know what this is. See, it's a fidget cube. No, could you bop it? Bop it. Bop it. Lift it. Hold it. Rips it apart. Anyway, no. Bop it. Bop it. Pull it.
Rictus is a dragon, right? Not literally, but he's definitely a problem. Rex.
The dragon that flew around in the sky.
Karna might be kind of like a literal dragon. We don't really know what Karna is yet, right? But that might be like a literal dragon that Harvey's facing. Alexa. The fish in the lake, yeah. Lulu, becoming a fish in the lake. Nevaeh. I'm sorry? Mr. Hood. So, obviously, Harvey's facing a lot of dragons. I know, I don't have time to call everybody. I'm so sorry. But I want you to keep this in mind. Sometimes, the dragons that we face are inside of us.
Whoa.
What do you mean?
Sometimes, it might be, and this is the case with ourselves and with our characters.
That was deep.
Sometimes our character flaws might be our biggest dragons. Maybe it's a problem of not being confident. Maybe it's a problem of the dragon being negative. Maybe your dragon is that you're lazy or that you procrastinate. Maybe your dragon is that you're rude. And so I want you to think about that, guys, because remember that when we're talking about the characters in our books, we can also be talking about ourselves, right? And so sometimes the dragons that we face have to do with our internal conflicts, the problems that we're having inside of us. That can be the same for our characters. Think about it at the beginning of The Thief of Always. What was Harvey's dragon at the beginning? The very beginning. He was what? Bored. He was bored. Right? Now, that character flaw led to a whole mess, correct? Led to all these other dragons. So that's something I want you to keep in mind as we move forward. In just a couple minutes, I'm going to give you some time to do some independent reading. And you are specifically going to be looking today for your character's dragons. All right? I'm actually going to be asking you at the end of class to tell me at least one of your character's dragons that you came across as you were reading today. So make sure that you're on the lookout for that. I want you to think about this. How is that dragon that your character is facing adding to the theme of your story? Remember the theme. Sometimes in life, this happens. Sometimes in life, hope helps people survive. Think about the home of the brave. We learned that theme through all of the conflicts that Cat faced. I feel like we're starting to figure out the theme of The Thief of Always based on all these conflicts that Harvey's facing. Think about your book. Please stop, Sarah. What could your character's dragons be pointing to as far as the theme? And if you really want to dig deep, because some of you are very good, I want you to think about how might your character's perspective keep them from seeing their dragon. Go back to Elizabeth for just a minute. Did Elizabeth, not this Elizabeth, paperback princess Elizabeth. Did Elizabeth realize at the beginning of the story that Ronald was a dragon?
Yeah.
Her perspective kept her from seeing that, right? She was living the dream, her happily her perspective kept her from seeing that Ronald was a dragon. How might your character's perspective be keeping you from seeing that as well? Or keeping them from seeing that stuff? So, I'm going to give you guys about, probably not as long today for independent reading. Maybe about 10 to 15 minutes today because we did get a little bit later start and we had to kind of have our little talk time. So I'm going to give you a little bit